Max winced as her paintbrush slipped and a streak of red appeared below the line of blue painter's tape she'd been painting above. She shot a quick glance toward her brother, who was busy repairing a damaged shelf, before rubbing the streak off the dry surface with a dirty rag. Crisis averted. She looked down at her phone and found herself grinning as Ian's name flashed across the screen.
Hey, just wanted to check in and see how things were going at the boat. I'll be home around 7, so we could go out for dinner unless you're eating with Gabe.
She typed out a quick response. Things are going great here. I'll be home before 7. See you tonight. Love you. She rolled her eyes at herself, thinking how things had changed in just a few months. Ian Thackeray had come into town as a wealthy businessman looking to purchase her bookstore, as well as the shops around it, so he could fulfill his own dreams of building a complex of custom escape rooms. She could hardly imagine what the Max from back then would say if he saw her now. It was beginning to feel like the man who'd started off as her mortal enemy might actually be the love of her life. He'd been a great support through her grandfather's death and always had her back. He was funny and smart and kind. He was beginning to become part of the family. Footsteps from behind interrupted her thoughts, and she spun to see her older brother, Gabe, screwdriver in hand, approaching.
Looks pretty good, even for you, Squirt. We'll be finished here in no time,
he said, surveying her work with a grin. Gabe's boat was beautiful, but a recent boom in the whale-watching and fishing tour business had caused a good bit of wear and tear. He'd never been great at the more detail-oriented jobs, so she'd offered to have her clerk watch the bookstore for half of the day and come do some painting for him. They'd spent most of the morning on the deck and had only recently moved to the interior. Yep, just a few more things to do and we should be all set. Which is good, because that will give me time to do some stuff at the bookstore and then stop by Mom's for a glass of wine before Ian and I go to dinner.
Stick around for a bite to eat, at least. Sasha texted a bit ago and said she had a bit of time before work and would drop off lunch for us.
Great, Max said with a smile, inhaling the ocean breeze. No matter how many times she visited, the marina would always be special to her. She and Gabe had spent many days out on the water as kids fishing with Pop, and the tradition had continued with Gabe. You'll have to take me out sometime soon. Though she hadn't gone out on the water since Pop's death, today's visit made her eager to do so again. Gabe nodded, grinning.
Sure, anytime you want, assuming I'm not booked.
It'll be difficult then, Max said, picking her paintbrush back up with a chuckle. Gabe had been taking people out on the water nearly every day as of late. He stepped away, moving back to the shelf, and she could hear the sound of him screwing another shelf in shortly after, barely audible over the whooshing of the waves. Something about work like this was so satisfying. She made a mental note to tackle all the odds and ends that still needed doing in her apartment soon. She nodded with satisfaction as she finished painting a few minutes later, stepping back to admire her handiwork. Is the next shelf ready for paint? She asked.